the Import Export Advisory Series. In this episode, we have come back to you with a very interesting topic that is becoming a hot conversation for the younger audience, e-commerce. The young generation who are the digital natives prefer e-commerce, which means that the government has to go and make regulations to control this market so it becomes a fair play for everyone. And we will speak very specifically about e-commerce in exports and imports. And to make that possible and to peel the onion, we have Meenal who specializes in this in this particular domain. Meenal, welcome.
Thank you.
So now this world is making a lot of progress, and as an economy that is making a pitch for becoming the third largest in the world, India is focusing a lot on exports. Now, Meenal, let me start with a fundamental question. Why do you think um, e-commerce makes a lot of business sense in these times versus the traditional export businesses?
So basically, from the government perspective and from economy perspective, and even from the traditional businesses, the corporates perspective. So the first important point is like you must all be aware that government of India has set up a very ambitious target of 1 trillion USD of merchandise exports by 2030. So in order to achieve this humongous targets, we are as a government or as a nation trying to see what are the different avenues available to us for exports such that we reach that target. So apart from the traditional exports, like the manufacturing unit or a trader doing exports, one of the very major and a very important aspect which has been focused recently is the cross-border e-commerce trade. And you will be surprised to know that globally, the cross-border e-commerce is estimated to grow to around like 800 billion USD by 2025 and up to 2 trillion USD by 2030. So if I like say an estimate, e-commerce would account for around 6.6% of the overall global merchandise trade. And India is now taking a step towards it to be amongst that category and make a mark in it. So, coming from this perspective, what are the advantages which an e-commerce exports has versus the traditional method of doing exports? So, first and the foremost is like an exporter, e-commerce operator gets a very larger access to very larger access to the international market. Reason being, people are used to using different kinds of websites, the e-commerce platform more, and therefore the accessibility of reaching to the direct consumer happens very fast. Like if I share my own example, in a month I must be ordering at least 10 to 15 items from an e-commerce platform every month on an average. It must be more. So this is just a personal consumption of me. So like if I consider many such individuals, they must be consuming similar or an average or an above category. So because of being a part of an e-commerce operation, you get as an exporter access to a larger international market. Secondly, the margins which you get when you are directly dealing to the customer, the end user, would be much better. Thirdly, the infrastructure cost gets reduced to a greater extent as compared to the traditional exports, because there are a lot of things you can save on if you are an e-commerce exporter. Then even the brand value increases because you are there on the e-commerce, the social platforms, to create more awareness about your products, services, etc. and then your product also has to match the international quality and standards and the latest trends. And lastly, like as an exporter, you can also overcome the fluctuation in the demand, the seasonality in the demand in the domestic market. uh, when there is a slump in the domestic market, you can cover up by selling in the international market. Of course, advantage is also there to a normal traditional exporter, but then in e-commerce, the audience reach being larger and wider across the length and breadth of the world, you can access very easily, and the margins would be better. So these are the very broad and the major advantages which a normal exporter has versus a e-commerce exporter, if I put it like this.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, the question is, what are the natural options that people may consider for exports now through e-commerce?
Like you're asking in terms of products or the
Yeah,
categories of
yeah. What are the
products? Okay.
products suited for e-commerce
Yeah, so
exports?
it's a very apt question because international. If I am an Indian exporter, what products of mine of India are possible to export across the world? I'll have to think it like that. So one is of course the textile category, like the products of handloom. So India is known for the handloom and handicraft related products. So that is a very good category. Then the leather and the leather goods, of course, these all products are already being exported, no, on a traditional method, on a bulk basis to another manufacturer or to another trader. But then here, what we are talking is D2C, direct to consumer. So textile, handloom, handicraft, then the leather and the leather goods, then the home decor, the Indian artifacts, the beauty and the personal care related products, then semi-precious jewelry and accessories, then the Ayush and herbal products. So because of this International Yoga Day and a lot of being talked about because of our Prime Minister visiting across the world, Ayush, like Ayurvedic products are gaining a little more popularity, and therefore the Ayush and the herbal products could also be a good category. Then the Indian spices and the food products, the ready to cook, the ready to make, the ready to eat packets, those also has a good chance of getting exported. Then again, some religious artifacts, like the Indians residing abroad would like to buy certain religious artifacts also. So these are the broad sectors which have a good possibility of exporting, because these are already getting exported in one or the other way. But now with e-commerce, how we can make this product reach to the direct customer. And now if I talk about the products in specific, this I talked about the categories. So it could be the crafted shoes, then carpets, Indian carpets with designer motifs, then Ayurved products, leather jackets, leather related other accessories, then handicrafts, then home furnishings, then khadi items like khadi clothes. Indian khadi is very well known and accepted across the world now. Then the ethnic wear, then decorative paintings from different parts of India. Like India has a very diverse culture, so every state or every city or every region has specialty. Like if I talk about Gujarat, the Kutch is one area. Then in Assam, so there are many such areas specified in India where they have their own natural native products, which also have a very unique possibility of exporting. Then traditional garments like Jodhpuri garments, then organic products. Like there's a huge trend around these organic products getting manufactured from India. So like if I talk about myself again, I use a lot of many organic products at my home as well. So eat edible organic products has a good popularity across the world. Then sports goods, some small medical equipment, surgical items, auto components. So these are various broad categories and products which has a possibility of exporting. Of course, with more getting into details of each region, you have to derive, like if you are wanting to export to developed countries versus developing countries or underdeveloped countries. depending on the category of the region you want to focus in, the products may be chosen. And one more thing, so there are a lot of GI tagged geographical indication. So GI tagged products, which have been also, so those are very unique products of Indian origin, and those have a very wide acceptability in the international market, and that has a good scope of exports as well.
So one short question before I go to the next one. So will there be an additional advantage of trying to export a GI tag product?
Yeah, so that's a unique product. Nobody can copy. Simple, if I can put it like this. Like handlooms and lot of other native items, the carvings, painting. So, good you asked me this question. Um, Recently, I encountered a client. They are actually into marble related, carvings getting manufactured from India. And there was one Japanese person visiting a temple made by them. So they are actually temple architects. So this temple architect, they had made some temple here in India. So there was one Japanese person coming to India and visiting the temple due to some other reason. He liked the carvings, etc., so much that he ordered similar kind of architects for a Japanese hotel. No, so he was so impressed by the Indian architecture, the carvings, etc., that he wanted exactly similar kind of thing for his upcoming hotel in Japan. So it's not just that Indian people consuming the Indian culture and the scriptures and the architecture, but it's also the international audience liking our Indian products in a different way, like Indian clothing, Indian architecture. Like I think I come across a lot of such things day in and day out. And lately I've realized that international audiences, since a lot of them coming to India and visiting a lot of places in India, they're liking a lot of our Indian products.
Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I see no end to what we can export.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very
So
true.
natural question next.
Yeah.
Now I have a great product. I have a mechanism that will take my product to the most nookiest part corner of the world. Now,
Yeah.
what are the regulations I need to follow to be able to export within the legal boundaries? Yeah.
Yeah. So, very, very important question. And I think this is most overlooked part by most of the exporters. So when you choose to export any product, even before placing on an e-commerce platform or even getting into the exports, the first homework which anybody has to do is identifying the correct HSN code of the product. So it is called harmonized system nomenclature. There is a unique code for each product. There are 1 to 98 chapters under the customs tariff, and internationally 6 digits are common. Rest, every country has their own nomenclature and the tariff subheading and the titles, etc. So if once you identify the correct HSN code of the product, then you may be able to check whether your product is permissible to be exported or not. So there are basically three categories in terms of the policy: free, restricted, and the prohibited category. So if your product is under the freely exportable category, you can freely export that product to different countries across the world. Second category, as I mentioned, is restricted, which means it's not freely permitted, but still you can do with certain conditions as prescribed by the Directorate General of Foreign Trade, because this is normally falling under the purview of Foreign Trade Policy and Handbook of Procedures, and under the purview of Directorate General of Foreign Trade. So if that product is restricted, there may be conditions like the quantum of product getting exported or any other such conditions. So then you need to take special permission before exporting. So imagine a situation, you are very passionate about some product. You just placed it on an e-commerce platform or on your own website, and you getting the order of the same. And then when you went to export the product, and then suddenly you came that okay, this product is a restricted product. So that doesn't work like that. You have to do your proper homework of your product, study the product, the characteristics of the product, and identify the correct HSN code and check whether it is freely permitted or a restricted product. And the third category is prohibited. Prohibited means you are not permitted to export at all. You cannot do exports of that product. Simple. So this is the first layer of filtration after identifying the HSN code to identify like what are the policies. Then the third thing is you need to check what are additional requirements required by your product. So if you say that my product is an organic product, then you need to have that certification from APEDA or the respective authorities to say that, okay, this is a organic product. You cannot just say, okay, and write on the label that this is an organic product. So depending on your product, if it's a medical equipment, you need to have certificate from CDSCO, which is called Central Drug. Um, I'm forgetting the full form, but it is called CDSCO authority. So you need to get that certification. So depending on your product, or even at times depending on the country to whom you are exporting, every country may have their own so that is called non-tariff barriers imposed by a particular country, so that they are able to follow. No, you must have heard about halal certification. So there are different kind of certifications, and halal is for cosmetic products also, or even at times for different various food products. So for every product you need to check what are the legal requirements or the certifications or the licenses which you need to obtain for exporting this. So these are the broad set of regulations. So once you are through with this gives you an idea whether you are able to export this product or not. Then the second bunch of requirements is you need to have the IEC import exporter code. You need to have IceGate registration, then GST registration, AD code registration, PFM. So there are different other registrations which allows you to export your product physically from an Indian government perspective. So of course, there is no end to this. I'm just giving you an overview today. Like there are much more things to be dealt with in detail, depending on your business, what you are into and the product into.
Awesome. So now there are a lot of these regulations which my advisors or my import export consultants will tell me. Okay.
Hmm.
Now there is an opportunity. I'm making money through my e-commerce engines. The other aspect that I look at where my cash flow gets impacted is the refund of IGST for commerce or postal services, right?
Correct.
So tell me a little more about where my how I can make sure that my cash flow with the international e-commerce things becomes stable and I don't make the wrong steps. So I want to be aware of what I should do with IGST.
You must be thinking why I'm laughing at this question or no, just smiling. You won't believe since last week, almost alternate day, I am getting such questions. Uh, E-commerce, of course, is a different category and a different set of documents to be maintained. But even till date, there are traditional exporters suffering with this problem of not getting IGST refunds or no Purana 2020-21 ka refund abhi bhi, those are getting stuck because of some or the other reason.
Okay.
So, as a exporter, smart exporter, you have to be very, 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 very cautious on this aspect. So for that, what you need to do is, so there are two ways to do exports under e-commerce. Either you will do it like logistically, I'm saying, either it is post or through a courier mode, right?
Hmm.
If you are doing through a postal mode, then the Indian Postal Department will come into picture. If you are doing through a courier mode, then DHL or like various logistics agencies will come into picture. If you are doing e-commerce exports through post, then the postal shipping bill has to be filed. So of course they are aware of the post. Once you go to the postal department, I think it is called PBE. I'm just trying to recollect. postal bill. Yeah, it is called PB only. Postal bill of export has to be filed. And PB3, it is for e-commerce exports, which has to be filed. So, of course, we have to provide the correct information to the postal department to file the correct bill of export. And please verify. So, what happens is once you give the documents to any department or agency, we think as an exporter that my job is done. But no, that is not the case. They are also tend to making a lot of mistakes. And we again come across such situations many a times. Ki in name is incorrect, GST number is incorrect, bank details are incorrect. So you have to verify all the details because they will be sending you a draft of the bill of export or a shipping bill which they file before they file. So please check the draft correctly with your invoice and tally with it, and then go ahead and allow them to file. So once the postal bill of export is filed, then there is a let export order which you can download from the postal department's website, which they'll of course share all those details. So those details you have to upload in your GSTR1, which is the GST return required to be filed on a monthly basis for your sales. And there is table 6A, which is particularly for exports. Now, if I talk about exports through a courier mode, then there is C, which is called CSB, courier shipping bill. The courier shipping bill has to be filed by the courier, the respective courier agency. And again, please verify all these details of the GST, the IC, AD code, HSN code, value of the product, name of the client, your name. Was small mistake of this will lead you to a bigger problem. And once you verify, then once they file the shipping, again they file the shipping bill, etc. All these details will have to be filed in the GSTR form. Please maintain a proper record of your shipping bill and cross tally again with your GSTR1. And then once you file, there are different, like either you must have done under LUT or your IGST after payment of IGST. So it will get integrated because there is an internal mechanism of GST and the ICE gate. And if everything goes well, you will get your GST refund if you have done exports on payment of IGST. So this is, a broad procedure I'm just explaining. But please be cautious in declaring various incentives, benefits, whatever, or GST amount or the invoice value, because small mistakes, like minor mistakes, will lead to GST accumulation and you will not get your refunds on time.
True. Specifically when the percentage of GST is so high,
Yeah,
all your profits disappear.
yeah,
And
correct,
then there's so much pain in following up, redocumentation, identifying where the issue is.
correct.
So get it right the first time and then make sure that you make your money in time, because every time you lose money, you're losing time also.
Correct. And even like there are two options. You can export under LUT or export under IGST. Depending on your business scenario, you can choose whatever option you are
Okay.
uh, best for
Awesome.
you.
Great answers and great insight. Before I let you go, there's one question. From your experience of dealing with these cases, which one would you recommend that the exporters do? Should they go for the postal department's services or courier services? Or do you see any advantage of one over the other? So,
So, both are good in their own way. Postal departments are cost effective, but yes, the timeliness is also critical. Timeliness is not guaranteed, but yes, Indian government is working very hard to strengthen the presence of the international post offices. So as of now, like I have seen a lot of my clients preferring the private courier mode because they are efficient, they are answerable. Of course, they are also tend to making a lot of mistakes which we come across on a daily basis. But if you want to ship your goods fastest, then postal mode is not helping so much. But if you are okay that okay, it may take its own sweet time because the cost is a little less. The postal department can be chosen. So depending on your situation, you may choose whether you want to incur more on this cost or which cost. and time is important or cost is important, or you can balance and then choose the ideal one.
Awesome, Meenal. Thanks so much. Small topic, but lot of value.
Yeah.
Um,
Like before going like closing part, I think lot of things needs to be still discussed on this topic, like what, where and how to sell, how in what time frame you need to realize your money. That I think I can answer within just 30 seconds. Like
please,
we
please,
need to
any
realize the
information
money.
is good information. This is
Yeah.
all gold for my
E-
clients.
yeah, e-commerce exporters also need to realize their money in the specified time frame by RBI, like 9 months, which is a normal time period. And if you have your own warehouses abroad, then you can realize within 15 months. But again, no, there are a lot of again representations going on that for an e-commerce exporter, there is a separate policy has to be there, no, separate mechanism, because they may be realizing money through their payment gateways like Razorpay or PayPal or anybody else, and then knocking off the receipts against the exports, because the amount may be like $100 as well. In e-commerce, that's the beauty of it. You can transact for a value of $100 and $1,000 as well, or any value. But again, knocking off those transactions in the books of RBI, no, so that we are not in a blacklist, because now government comes after us saying that okay, if you have done exports, where is the money, whether you have received or not. So entire thing has to be looked into, and a lot of other things are still, I want to share, but because of our time constraint we can't talk too much here. But yes, if you have any queries, no, we can help and address the same as well.
Why don't we do a session purely on this? What do you think?
Yeah, we can think of.
Sure. Let's work out a date and time to address this. But meanwhile, thank you so much for these answers. This insight is really good.
Mm.
And unfortunately for us, a lot of exporters still don't know the advantages of using these channels. So I hope we open a Pandora box for them to kind of realize what they can do with e-commerce and exports.
Mm.
Um, Thanks so much, audience. I know we are going live on a mode where we cannot answer your questions live, but this is not the end of the world. You know where to find both of us on LinkedIn. Please make your comments on my timeline or Meenal's timeline, and we will be more than happy to get you the answers that you need to solve your import export queries. And Meenal is the expert here, so please feel free to bomb her timeline with your questions, and she will have all the time in the world to answer it.
Mm.
So, but the next time we will be back with a new topic, and let's peel the onion a little more to see how we can help your import export business and get over the legal compliance issues and make sure that you make your money on time without delays.
Yes.
Meenal, any closing comments?
No, that's it.
Good. Um, Thank you so much for being a sport, and let's meet again next week at 5 p.m. Tuesday, Indian Standard Time. Until then, all of you have a lovely time, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.